Joseph here with another video, and it's a nice cool day here in South Texas. And the last couple of videos I've kind of been going back and forth. I'm looking at some rare gems in my collection from the 70s decade. I've been going back and forth from the point of 1975. And today I'm going to be looking at 1976, some of the rare gems. And so let's get started. First of all, I got Bill Evans, Montreux number 3. There's Bill and Eddie Gomez on the cover, and there's another shot of Bill and Eddie. And of course, Bill's wearing some rather gaudy 70s jacket there, but there they are. And Bill did record at Montreux in the 1960s, and then he also made an album, Montreux number 2, which is on CTI. But what's very unique about this album is it's a duo. It finds Bill and Eddie without a drummer. And of course, Bill is primarily known for his classic trios, but I really enjoy the work and when they're just as a duo, the interplay between them is outstanding and it's a beautiful recording. One of the top tracks here is Elsa, the Earl Zinder song, and Bill recorded that quite a few times on different recordings, but right away, it's just a beautiful, crystal clear playing of Bill. And another outstanding feature of that particular song is the great bow work of Eddie when he's soloing. Another outstanding track is Venusian Rhythm Dance, very playful sound on that one. And also what's unique about this album is Bill is using the electric piano, which he was experimenting with a little bit in the 70s. He does on this album on a couple tracks. Also, there's another duo album that I highly recommend called Intuition. I'm not sure if it was recorded before or after this one, but it's also a duo with Eddie Gomez, and I highly recommend that. And it's kind of sad that Bill maybe didn't continue with the electric piano because I loved it. I know there's some people who really, purists that didn't enjoy his look into electric piano, but he had a really good feel for it, an outstanding sound. So Bill Evans, Montreux number 3. And that's on the Fantasy label, the Brown Fantasy. Next up, we have the Sons of Chaplin. A Circle Filled with Love. There's the back cover. And this is on the Areola America label, black label there. And if you're not familiar with the Sons of Chaplin, they're a band out of San Francisco. They were part of the wave of music that came out of the middle 60s, of course, the Summer of Love, 1967. And they were one of the mainstays out of the Fillmore and that, the ballroom scene in San Francisco. And what's unfortunate is they never got maybe the recognition to say the Grateful Dead or the Jefferson Airplane, even Quicksilver. But what was really different about the Sons of Chaplin was they had horns. They had, at times they had saxophones and trumpets, and they were led by Bill Chaplin, who was an awesome vocalist and very much a very soulful vocalist, and also some wonderful guitar work by guitarist Terry Haggerty. They always had in their band. They have a great debut album called Loosen Up Naturally, kind of more in the psychedelic vein. But on this album, they're in a kind of funk soul mode. Very, very outstanding album. And once they do have horns in this band. And some of the highlights is right out the gate, they got a groover called Hold On, and that's a really outstanding one. And there's some really good originals by Bill Chaplin called Here's Where Your Love Belongs and Imagine's Sake. And there's an instrumental called Knick Knack, where apparently they were just jamming. Terry Haggerty was on guitar, and it's one of those stories where they just let the tape run and it caught a magical moment. But the Sons of Chaplin is one of the bands that I really regret that I didn't get to see, because about this time in 1976, they would come down to Los Angeles and play some of the local clubs. And at that time, I was seeing quite a few bands. I would catch them live, especially the ones that would play the smaller venues. But I never got to see the Sons of Chaplin. But Bill would go on to be a guitar player, singer in the band Chicago, and he's still active today. Playing shows around the Bay Area. So that's the Sons of Chaplin, Circle Filled with Love. Next up is Laura Nyro, and this one is called Smile. There's Laura on the cover, and in the back, it's got the sun, looks like the sun, and the lyrics written down. And of course, she's on Columbia, the 70s Columbia label. And this album is from 1976, as all these are. And this is Laura's comeback album because she had been out of the scene for a couple years. This is her 6th album that she released. And she was coming off of a couple years layoff, and there was many changes going on in Laura's life. She had gotten married, she had gotten divorced, and she had a child, moved out of New York City, which she's very famous for being almost like an icon in New York City. But at this time, she was going through some changes in her life. Her mother also had just passed away, and so the song Smile is dedicated to her. But it's a really great album. At the time, maybe I wasn't as excited about this as her first couple albums, but in the last week, as I was really listening to this, I was really surprised on how good it is. One thing that's really noticeable, she does a cover of Sexy Mama. It's a song called Sexy Mama, and I think it's a song written by Smokey Robinson. And it's got some wonderful sax playing by Michael Brecker. And another thing that really stands out right away is I always have enjoyed Laura's piano playing, accompanying herself. It's such a vital part of her music. But on this particular track, she's playing guitar, just acoustic guitar. So it's missing that piano, but it does give the song and the performance a different vibe than when she accompanies herself on piano. But Laura is always accompanied by outstanding musicians. And here she's got Joe Farrell on saxophone. He's the one that plays on Sexy Mama. She's got John Tropea on guitar, Richard Davis on bass, and of course the great Brecker brothers, Randy and Michael Brecker. But really beautiful album. On the song, one of the cuts, I believe it's I Am the Blues. It's got beautiful trumpet playing by Randy Brecker. And I went through a period in my high school years where I really listened a lot to Laura Nyro, and I would spend my summer times playing my trumpet as I was an aspiring trumpet player, attempting to accompany Laura on the records. And one of the stories about a trumpet player and Laura Nyro is when she was recording New York Tendaberry, her being a big Miles Davis fan, actually reached out to Miles to record on New York Tendaberry. I think they had shared a bill at the Fillmore East. But Miles reached out to her, and he actually came down to the studio, and he was gonna maybe do something for the album. But when he heard the playback, he said, "Laura, you already did it." So there is a beautiful picture of Laura and Miles together. But this is a great comeback album for Laura Nyro, who tragically died at a young age from cancer, but beautiful artist, Laura Nyro, Smile. Next up, we have Tower of Power, one of my old favorites, one of my top favorite bands. I've talked about them here before. And this album here is called Tower of Power, Live and in Living Color. And this is the back cover. This is, of course, on the Palm Trees Warner Brothers label. And this is recorded live in 2 different California cities, Sacramento, California, and also Cerritos College, Cerritos, California, at Cerritos College. And why I'm excited about this is I was at the concert in Cerritos College when this was recorded. Unfortunately, or fortunately, because it's all great music on this one, most of the recordings were done, I believe, in Sacramento. In fact, I'm not positive about which tracks were done in Cerritos, but Tower of Power, they were just a monster force back in this time. This was still when they had guys like Lenny Pickett on saxophone, who of course is still active, playing on the Saturday Night Live band. Chester Thompson on keyboards, Bruce Conte on guitar. Of course, the great horn section of Emilio Castillo, the band leader. Steve Kupka on bari sax, the funky doctor. And the legendary Mick Gillette on lead trumpet. What chops and what a beautiful sound he had. Of course, you remember that great sound on You're Still a Young Man. In fact, they play that on this album. Great cuts here. They do Down to the Nightclub, You're Still a Young Man, What is Hip, Sparkling in the Sand, which is one of my favorites, and a whole side version of Knock Yourself Out, with Lenny Pickett really taking an extended solo, doing some circular breathing, and it's quite the cut. And then also an extended solo by Chester Thompson. And at this time they had Hubert Tubbs on lead vocals. Maybe not quite as known as, of course, as Lenny Williams and the earlier Rick Stevens, who sang You're Still a Young Man. But Hubert Tubbs, he had a really rough, funky style, and he just recently passed away, so rest in peace, Hubert Tubbs. But this is a landmark album by Tower of Power, who are still going strong today after, I believe, 50 years plus as a band. But that's a look at a couple of gem albums, rare, under the radar. I believe most of these albums can be got in the $5 bin for the most part. And I recommend them all highly. So maybe I hope you like, subscribe, and mention some of your favorite albums from the year 1976.